You didn't wake up this morning by accident. That breath in your lungs, that beat in your chest, it's a sign that you're still in the fight, still in the plan, still in the purpose. But the battle you're in, it isn't just physical. It's not about bills, deadlines, or that call you haven't returned. It's deeper, it's spiritual, and how you start your day determines how you live your life. That's why God gave us Psalm 27, not just as a passage to read, but a declaration to live. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? That's not poetry, that's power. That's a weapon. And if you're waking up feeling uncertain, anxious, or attacked, then this is your shield. Psalm 27 isn't a morning routine, it's a spiritual stance. It's God saying, I know what's coming, but I've already equipped you for victory. You didn't just wake up this morning to an alarm clock, you woke up to a battlefield, but not the kind you can always see with your eyes. This battlefield is spiritual, it's invisible but deeply real. It's the tug on your soul before you even touch the floor. It's the heaviness you feel in your chest, the weight of yesterday that tries to bleed into today. You see, many people think their problems start at 10 a.m. when the meetings begin or when that difficult phone call happens. But the real battle begins the moment your eyes open. And that's exactly why you must start your day with Psalm 27. David didn't wait for the day to begin to start his defense. He declared it from the beginning. He opened with boldness. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? That wasn't a poetic phrase to make himself feel better. It was a proclamation of positioning. He was placing God at the center before fear could take root, before anxiety could enter. David drew a line in the spiritual sand and said, fear, you don't get to speak first. That's what you need to do every morning. Because the truth is, the enemy wants to catch you off guard. He wants you to wake up reacting instead of responding. He wants you rushing instead of resting in God. If you don't take spiritual authority first thing, your day will take it for you. You'll be driven by emotions, distractions, and demands instead of divine direction. And that's why Psalm 27 is not just scripture to memorize, it's a weapon to wield. Imagine waking up and before you check your phone, before you scroll social media, before your thoughts even have time to spiral, you say out loud, the Lord is my light, the Lord is my salvation. I will not fear today. I will not walk in darkness. I will not be moved by the enemy's whispers. My confidence is not in my schedule, my money, or my strength. My confidence is in the Lord. That one act of faith, that single declaration can shift the entire trajectory of your day. Because what you speak in the morning sets the spiritual atmosphere for everything that follows. You're not just preparing to survive. You're positioning yourself to overcome. The battle is real. The enemy will use anything to pull you out of purpose before the clock hits noon. He'll use comparison, bad news, fear, and fatigue. But when you start your day with Psalm 27, you're not starting with problems. You're starting with power. You're reminding every force in hell and every lie in your head that God is still in control. He is your light when darkness surrounds. He is your salvation when pressure mounts. He is your stronghold when weakness tries to take over. David didn't wait until halfway through the battle to speak up. He started strong. And that's your calling too. Start strong. Start spiritual. Don't just jump into the day. Step into it with authority. The same God who got you through yesterday is already present in today. And if the Lord is your light and your salvation, what shall you fear? So when your feet hit the floor, let your faith rise first. Let your soul declare the truth before lies can creep in. This is not just another day. This is another opportunity to declare victory. Another chance to trust God more than your feelings. Another day to align with heaven's rhythm. Start your day with Psalm 27, and you won't just go through your day, you'll conquer it. Fear has a way of finding us no matter how strong we think we are. It doesn't always come crashing in through the front door. Sometimes it slips in quietly, through a thought, a headline, a memory, a delay. You could be brushing your teeth or sipping your morning coffee and suddenly it hits. The uncertainty, the worry. What if I fail? What if I don't make it? What if I lose what I've been fighting for? That's how fear works. It doesn't need a loud entrance. It thrives in silence, in the pauses between your thoughts. But in Psalm 27, David shows us a different response. He acknowledges the fear, but he doesn't surrender to it. He says, Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then I will be confident. Think about that. Not after the war is over, I'll feel better. Not once everything calms down, I'll be okay. No, he says, even then. Even when surrounded, even when the threat is real, even when everything looks like it's falling apart, then he will be confident. That kind of confidence doesn't come from circumstance, it comes from relationship. David didn't have confidence because he was the strongest warrior. He had confidence because he knew who was fighting for him. He knew that the God who brought him through lions and bears would bring him through battles and betrayals too. And that same God is with you right now. The problem is, most people wait for fear to pass before they speak faith. They wait for things to get better before they feel secure. But Psalm 27 teaches us something radically different. You don't wait to feel safe before you speak truth. You speak truth to create safety in your spirit. Because fear may whisper, but faith speaks louder. And the louder your faith, the smaller fear becomes. You have to understand this. Fear is not just an emotion, it's a spirit. And that spirit is always looking for an open door. If it finds you unguarded, it will try to claim space in your heart. But you don't have to let it. The moment you feel fear rise, you speak truth, you speak scripture, you speak life. The Lord is my light, the Lord is my salvation, I will not be afraid. Every time you say that, you're pushing fear out and pulling peace in. David wasn't ignoring reality. He wasn't blind to danger. He was just more rooted in the presence of God than in the pressure of life. And that's the shift you need to make when fear tries to creep in. Don't deny what you're going through, but also don't exalt it above your God, because fear will shrink when you stop feeding it. And the more you feed your faith, the stronger it gets. When David says, even then I will be confident, he's modeling spiritual maturity. He's showing us what it means to anchor our emotions in God instead of outcomes. The battle might not be over. The diagnosis might still be uncertain. The money might not have arrived. But still, even then, you can be confident. Not because of the facts, but because of your faith. So as you step into your day, remember this. Fear might whisper, but it doesn't get the final word. Faith does. And faith isn't the absence of fear. It's the refusal to bow to it. Stand like David did. Speak like David did. Let your soul say, even now, even in this, I will be confident. Because if God is with you, no fear can stand against you. Life pulls at you from every direction the moment you wake up. Notifications light up your phone. Tasks flash through your mind. Responsibilities, regrets, expectations, they all rush in, competing for your attention. It's so easy to begin your day in a whirlwind, reacting to everything instead of responding with intention. But David offers a different path in Psalm 27. Amid chaos, he makes a powerful, focused declaration. One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. That statement is so simple, yet so deep. One thing, not 10 things, not scattered priorities, not a frantic mind, just one thing, God's presence. David was a king. He had armies to lead, a kingdom to run, enemies to face. He had reasons to stress, he had pressures surrounding him. But even with all that weight, his heart remained fixed on just one thing, to dwell with God, to sit with him, to be near him. That's the secret so many people miss. We think we need answers, solutions, strategies, but what we really need is alignment. We need our spirit to line up with heaven before we try to solve earthly problems, and that alignment only comes when we start our day seeking the presence of God. When David says dwell, he's not talking about a 5-minute devotion. He's describing a lifestyle, a posture of constant communion. He's saying, before I chase anything else, I'm chasing God. Before I fight any battles, I'm resting in his presence. That's not escapism. That's empowerment. Because when your soul is centered in God, you face everything else with strength and clarity. Imagine what your day would look like if you woke up and your first pursuit wasn't your phone, but God's presence. If your first thoughts weren't about deadlines, but about divine purpose. If the first voice you listened to wasn't the news, but the whisper of the Holy Spirit. That one decision would shift everything, because what you seek first reveals what you trust most. Just to trust him. David knew that if he got this one thing right, everything else would fall into place. He wasn't denying the realities around him, he was just prioritizing the reality within him. He understood that peace doesn't come from control. It comes from connection, and that connection can only be maintained when you pursue it daily, deliberately, and above all else. It's not that the other things in your life don't matter. Your work matters, your family matters, your goals matter. But when they take the place of your pursuit of God, everything gets out of alignment. You start carrying weight that was never yours to bear. You start striving instead of flowing. But when God becomes your one thing, when His presence becomes your priority, He brings order to your chaos, clarity to your confusion, and calm to your storms. Starting your day with that mindset is a game changer. Instead of saying, "God, I hope you bless what I'm doing today," you say, "God, lead me into what you've already blessed." You don't run out the door desperate for control. You sit in His presence until peace takes over. And that peace doesn't leave when the day gets hard. It walks with you. It anchors you. So ask yourself, what's the one thing I'm seeking today? Is it results, relief, or recognition? Or is it relationship with the one who holds everything together? When you start with Him, you don't have to chase everything else, because the God you're seeking already knows what you need. He's not hiding from you. He's waiting for you. Let your soul say what David's did. One thing I seek. And when that becomes your morning pursuit, your entire life begins to change from the inside out. There are moments in life when you feel completely exposed, vulnerable to the pressures, pains, and unpredictability around you. You may feel like you're standing in the middle of a battlefield with no shield, no backup, and nowhere to hide. And yet, right there, in that fragile place, Psalm 27 reminds you of a powerful truth. God hides you, not from reality, but in Himself, not in denial, but in divine protection. David says in Psalm 27:5, "For in the day of trouble, He will keep me safe in His dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of His sacred tent and set me high upon a rock." This isn't poetic exaggeration. This is spiritual reality. David wasn't unfamiliar with danger. He had enemies that literally wanted to kill him. But in the face of those threats, he didn't run to people, plans, or strategies. He ran to presence. He understood something most people forget. When life gets loud, hiding in God is not weakness. It's wisdom. God doesn't promise to remove every storm, but He promises to shelter you in the middle of it. You may still feel the wind. You may still hear the thunder, but the storm can't reach what God has covered. That's what David is declaring. When trouble rises, God raises a tent over you. When enemies close in, God creates a spiritual barrier that confuses and cancels their plans. And the beautiful part? You may not even realize how many attacks you've already been protected from. You're walking around today, not because the enemy didn't try, but because God hid you. You see, the real power of this psalm isn't just in what David says, it's in what he knows. He knows that his safety doesn't come from circumstances being favorable. His safety comes from God's favor being present. When you start your day in Psalm 27, you're not asking for an easy path. You're declaring that no matter how hard the path is, God has already built you a refuge within it. And don't miss this. David doesn't say, "God might hide me," or "I hope He shelters me." He says, "He will." That's confidence in covenant. That's assurance in relationship. When you belong to God, you don't have to beg for protection. It's already part of your inheritance. He will hide you. He will cover you. He will surround you with peace that makes no sense to the world around you. You may be dealing with betrayal, pressure, uncertainty, or fear. But in the middle of that mess, God still whispers, "Come into my tent." He invites you into the place where your soul is shielded, even when your situation isn't solved yet. That's what true safety looks like. Not escape, but endurance. Not running from it, but being able to stand in it because you know who's covering you. And the best part? This sacred shelter isn't limited to church buildings or prayer closets. It's portable. You can carry it into boardrooms, classrooms, hospital rooms, or traffic jams. God's covering is not a place. It's a presence. Wherever you are, He can build a shelter there. All you have to do is enter it, daily, intentionally, faithfully. So as you wake up, don't rush past this promise. Start your day with the awareness that you are hidden, not forgotten, not ignored, not abandoned, hidden in divine shelter. The world may still roar, but it can't reach you like it wants to. Attacks may still come, but they won't land like the enemy intended. Because God has you in His tent. He has placed you on a rock, and what He covers, He also secures. You don't need to fight for safety when you're already standing in the shadow of the Almighty. Let that confidence carry you through your day. You're not out in the open. You're under the covering. And that's more than enough. Worship is often misunderstood. Many believe it's reserved for Sunday mornings when the lights are dim, the music is just right, and the atmosphere feels sacred. But David reveals a deeper truth in Psalm 27. Worship isn't just for the sanctuary. It's for the battlefield. It's not a luxury for the peaceful. It's a necessity for the weary. That's why in the middle of writing about enemies and fear, David says, "At his sacred tent I will sacrifice with shouts of joy. I will sing and make music to the Lord." This is not a man who has everything figured out. David is still in danger. He is still surrounded. The threats haven't disappeared. But what does he do? He shouts for joy. He sings praises. He worships, not because life is perfect, but because God is present. This is where so many people miss it. They wait to feel peace before they worship. They wait until the problem is solved, the diagnosis is reversed, or the pain is gone. But David doesn't wait. He worships in the midst of it all. And that's the secret. Worship is a war cry. It's not a reaction to victory. It's a declaration in the face of uncertainty. When David chooses to sing, he's doing spiritual warfare. He's silencing fear. He's resisting the enemy. He's shifting the atmosphere around him, not by changing his situation, but by changing his posture. And that's what you're invited to do every morning when you start your day with Psalm 27. The moment you choose to worship, before you feel like it, before anything improves, you're declaring to the enemy, "You don't get to dictate my spirit." You're saying, "My joy isn't anchored in my circumstances, it's anchored in my Savior." And that confuses the enemy, because worship in the middle of warfare sends a clear message. You haven't won. I still have breath. I still have faith. I still have a song. There's something powerful about singing when it doesn't make sense. When your voice trembles but your spirit chooses to praise anyway. That's the kind of worship that reaches heaven. That's the kind that shakes hell, because it's rooted in trust, not in comfort. It's not just emotional, it's intentional. And when you begin your day that way, the rest of the day has to adjust to the spiritual authority you've just released. David understood that worship wasn't about performance. It was about positioning. He positioned his heart in God's presence before facing anything else. He didn't worship because everything was going well. He worshipped so that his spirit would remember who was still in control. And if it worked for David, if it brought him through betrayal, battles and brokenness, it will work for you. Start your day with praise, even if it's through tears. Sing while you wait. Rejoice even when the answer hasn't come yet. Worship isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about proclaiming that God is still good. It's about shifting your perspective from what's wrong to who is right. It's reminding your soul that your situation may be unstable, but your God never changes. And don't underestimate the power of your voice. When you sing, something in the spiritual realm moves. Chains break. Darkness lifts, hope rises. You're not just making music, you're making war. And in that sacred space of worship, God begins to strengthen you, comfort you, and prepare you for what's ahead. So let worship be your response, not your reaction. Let it be your habit, not your backup plan. Don't wait for the right feeling, lead your soul there. Because when you start your day with praise, you don't just survive the day, you lead it with purpose, power, and presence. You're not just enduring, you're overcoming. And that's what Psalm 27 calls you to do. Worship even in the war. Expectation is a powerful thing. It determines how you approach your day, how you interpret your struggles, and how you respond to challenges. David ends Psalm 27 not with a sigh of survival, but with a bold declaration of hope. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. That's not a vague wish for someday, somewhere in eternity. That's a declaration about now, about here, about this season, about your life, today. David isn't talking about theoretical goodness. He's expecting to see tangible evidence of God's hand while he's still breathing. And that's the mindset you need when you rise in the morning. You must believe that the best of God has not passed you by. That despite the battles, the delays, the confusion, and the pain, you are still on a collision course with God's goodness. There is something radically powerful about waking up and saying, I expect to see God's favor today. Not because life has always been easy, but because God has always been faithful. That expectation is not arrogance, it's alignment. It's aligning your heart with God's nature, reminding your soul that He is good and He does good things, even when your circumstances suggest otherwise, even when your feelings tell a different story. Faith chooses to expect the goodness of the Lord. David could have focused on the enemies around him. He could have fixated on his trials, on the betrayals, on the years of waiting for promises to be fulfilled. But instead, he looked forward. He looked through the fog of fear and saw the light of God's character. And he declared, I will see it, I will witness it with my own eyes. That's what makes this so powerful. It's not abstract faith. It's grounded confidence. It's the certainty that God's promises are not just eternal, they are present. This mindset shifts how you interpret everything. A delay doesn't feel like a denial when you expect goodness. A closed door doesn't feel like rejection when you know God's preparing something better. Even pain doesn't paralyze you when you believe it's producing something in you for your good. And don't miss the key word here, see. David didn't say, I hope to feel the goodness, or I might sense it if I'm lucky. He said, I will see it. That means the evidence will be visible. You'll have testimonies, you'll have proof. You'll be able to point and say, that right there, that was God. But that kind of clarity doesn't come to the doubting. It comes to the expecting, to those who believe not just in heaven, but in the fact that heaven invades earth when we stand in faith. When you start your day with this level of expectation, it changes your posture. You begin looking for goodness instead of bracing for disaster. You approach every moment as if it's pregnant with potential. You realize that God doesn't need perfect conditions to bless you. He just needs a heart that's open and eyes that are looking. That's why David ends with the encouragement, wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. Because even though he was confident in the goodness, he also understood that goodness doesn't always arrive on your timeline. Sometimes it comes slower than you hoped, but it will come. And in the waiting, you must remain strong, not by your own might, but by anchoring yourself in the faithfulness of God. So when your feet touch the floor in the morning, let that be your declaration. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. I will not lower my expectation because of my frustration. I will not surrender my hope because of hardship. My God is still good, and His goodness is chasing me, even now, even today, and I will see it with my own eyes.